So welcome back for the day 2. So for today's session, we will be tackling the JavaScript side of things. So give me a minute. So welcome back for the day 2. So for today's we'll be now I will say making our application go live. So we'll be trying to implement the JavaScript component. So yesterday, day 1, we actually focused on building the HTML structure. So we actually focused more on the HTML structure. So we built the HTML structure, the CSS also HTML structure, the CSS styling of the weather application, and today we are actually going to bring our application to life. So today the focus for what we're going to do for today is actually we're going to connect the weather API to our weather application to an API, so that we're able to actually fetch weather data in real time. Also, we're going to handle any asynchronous operation while fetching data. So we're using asynchronous operations so that our application can actually serve multiple users without breaking. So it can handle multiple requests at a go. Then the DOM manipulation, so updating the UI dynamically. So different cities or different cities will be having different weather updates. Okay, so we actually need to update the UI according to the weather information. If it's rainy, then we should display I'll say images that show rainings. Okay, then we'll use some event listeners so that whatever is happening, we're able to capture that and display the appropriate information. Error handling and also passing and the displaying of that information. Okay, so that's what we're going to be covering today. So it's just a small bit continuing from what we actually started yesterday. So actually, if you're joining us today, so I'm actually a data scientist. I actually most work with the backend side of things, and so one thing that I came to realize is that why not I should actually try on the front-end side of things, because most of the applications that I'm building, most of them will be deployed via web. So I wanted to actually acclimatize with the front-end side of things, so that generally my goal, my desire is become full stack, so that full stack, but my specialty is mostly the backend, but I just want to understand a little bit of the front-end side of things, so that whatever project I'm working on, it becomes easier for me to actually integrate the both sides of things. So whatever the front-end guys will actually want, so I'll be able to actually convey, I'll be able to actually meet their requirements, because I'm able to understand their language. What do they want? In what form do they want this type of data? Okay, so if I'm able to get some little bit of understanding on the front end side of things, I think I can be, or anyone listening, they can be actually upbeat in terms of that. So let's today. So yesterday, just to do a recap, we were able to actually design this web application. So this is a weather app. What we did yesterday, we were able to design the background. we're able to design this card. We are able to actually include, I'll call it a text box, input label, input. Then we're able to design this button, then create these images and display this information, the humidity and the wind. So this was what we were able to achieve yesterday, and we were able to design it accordingly, and we were able to use CSS to actually style this component. So today what we are going to do is we are going to actually going to start now. What I'll say, we are going to make our application live so that it can serve whatever purpose it's meant to serve, displaying weather information from various cities. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing that we are going to do is to first API configuration, storing the API key and the base URL. So we are storing API keys and the base URL and the base URL storing the API key and the base URL. So this is what. So I'm going to create a function, create a variable const. So this one is the one that's going to store our API key. So I name my variable, then we'll pass in. I'll show you where we can get the API key. Then this is the API URL, API URL. Then I'll just show you where we can get that information. Then we need to grab the DOM elements. So grab the DOM elements. So this one's we start with the const. So we start with the search box. So remember, search box, this is where we need to input our the name of the city. So enter the city name. So I'll call it the search box. Then document dot query selector. Then you're going to pass in the search input. So you're going to pass in the class name, supposed to be so that's the search input. Okay, so you might wonder, where am I getting the search input? So in my index HTML, so this is where we have the search input. Okay, so the input where we will be entering the city name. So this is where I have the class search input, and so I'm using the query selector to actually import the class name for that. Okay, then another variable, so this is the search button. So whenever we enter the city name, we have to press the search button so that we're able to retrieve information for that specific city. So again, we're going to use the document query selector. Then we're going to pass in the class name. So search button. So button. Seems I'm missing. We ought to have. We should be having. class here. We'll be having we'll be having a class name, this button, just class name, the search button. So then we have to that we would want. Then we have the weather icon. So const weather icon. So this one again, document query selector. Then we are going to pass our weather icon. So this is the weather icon. This is the one that I will be passing. So this is the weather icon. No, sorry, this is the one. So I'm going to pass in weather icon. Then it should be within quotation marks. So just add that. Okay. Now once we have this, then we are going to create the function. So this is the main function that will fetch and display the weather data that will display weather data. This is the one just try to increase the okay. So this one will fetch the weather data. So I'm using a synchronous function. So async function. Then we pass in the get weather data. Then you're going to pass in the name of the function. Name of the function, you're going to pass in the parameters. So that's the city. Then you're going to make API call to open weather map to then okay. Now let me show you where we are getting the API key. So with the API key, you can get it from open weather API. So you just need to search the open weather map. Then from here, you can, if you don't have an account, you can actually sign up or sign in. Use the one that, so I will use the open weather map.org. So this is where we will be getting our API key. So under this, just so open weather, then you can click the button on APIs, so that then for the APIs will be taken to the weather API. Then the project that you're building is just the current weather data. You're not doing the forecast, hourly forecast or daily forecast, climatic forecast for 30 days. No, you're just finding the current weather data for a specific city. So you'll click on the button API documents. Then you can scroll to this point here. This one. So this one is the API. Then we'll just copy this as your API. So this one will be your API. It will be your URI. This one will be your URI. You can just copy this. This one will be your URI. Copy this. Then you can go back to your and paste it here. So you can see so this is the API open weather and the metrics. So what you can do with this one is that what you can do, I've copied everything until to this point. Okay, so that's what I've actually copied. And one thing that I've added is the metrics. So I've added the metrics. This one here. I've added the visibility, weather, added the metrics. Not the metric, the unit. Sorry, supposed to be the unit. So I've added the unit. Supposed to be unit somewhere, so that you convert it. Yeah, this one. So I've added the units so that we're able to convert. So for the units, we have the standard, metric, and imperial. So I've used the metric so that we use the degrees Celsius. Okay. So once you have this, then you can. I didn't sign in, but you first have to sign in so that you're able to generate your API key. So I'll have to look for the API keys. So this is my API key. I think I'm using this one as my API key. So you can just generate an API key, give it a name, then generate your API key. So once you generate your API key, then you can just copy your API key. Once you have your API key, you can go back to your JavaScript, and then you can just paste your API key here. So you have your API key, and here I have the URI. Okay, so with the URI, not the URI, the URL. This is the one that you're going to use to actually pass in the city name. So we have to pass the city name. It will take the city name as well as the and it will find that data and actually output the information, temperature, wind, and humidity, depending on what information you'll be extracting. So then we have the response. So what is the response? The response that we're using here is the await. We're going to pass in the API URL as the city. Then you can style how the URL is going to get this data. So what we are adding here is the app ID. You are passing in the API key. So this is where the API key goes. So API. Okay. So that's it. So once we now previously we talked about handling the errors. So going back to our HTML file, we have this portion. We created this so that we are actually able to handle errors just in case someone types in a city that does not exist. So how do we handle such cases? So that's what you're going to sort here. So here we're going to handle invalid city names. So if a city name is not, if this is not a valid city name, what happens? Okay, so if the response dot status 404, then what should we do? So let's define what we're going to do if the city name is not the one that is, it's not a valid city name. So document, then dot query selector. So we are going to capture, we are going to get this class name. So that is the query selector. Yeah, selector. Supposed to use that. Then take in the error. Then we are going to do some styling. So style dot display. Supposed to be style dot display. So what are we going to display if we have this? If you have this, so in document query selector, whether file say. So we are going to say now the weather, because our city name is null, does not exist, then we're not going to display the weather information. Of course, we cannot display the weather information of an invalid city. So then we can just return statements. Sorry, press the return statement. Then the document vector. What we are going to do, error. Okay, so I think that one is done. So the next one that we are going to do is that we are going to pass the JSON response from the API. Okay, so here we're going to pass JSON response from API. So data await response. So data that you're going to get from the API will be in a JSON format. And then once we get this data from a JSON format, then we need to actually update. Going to update the UI. Update the UI with the weather information. Weather information. Okay. So because different cities do have different weather information, so whenever we type a city name and we look for this data, we have to change our UI so that it matches the weather information that we're actually getting from the given city. Okay, so document selector. So what you're going to pass here is the weather city. So the weather city for that name. So for this one, you're going to use the function in HTML so that you're able to get that data. So data dot name. So I'm just going to copy this because we have the name of the city, then we have the temperature, we also have the humidity, and also the wind. So this is the information that whenever city we are calling, we have to be displaying this information. So this one is for the weather city. So we can change this now to the temperature. so that we're getting that temperature information in a HTML. Then I'm just going to edit something here. So I just do away with this. We'll do some calculations. So math. So we are going to round the data that we are going to get that. So that will be the data dot main dot temperature. Then what you're going to do is to add the degrees Celsius. Okay, just search degrees Celsius, degrees Celsius symbol. Celsius. Okay. Make sure in the brackets. Okay. For the humidity, so you can just change this to humidity. So for the humidity, again inner HTML. So we are going to change this. So data dot main dot humidity. Okay. Then this one we are going to change again because we are getting information on wind. So wind in HTML data dot wind speed in the speed. Then for this one, you need to specify the kilometers or the metrics. This one will be kilometers per hour. Okay, so you might wonder where we are getting this information. So we had the API key. So if we can go back, we can a document. Let me get that URL. This is the URL. So this is the URL. So you can just take this URL, paste it on the search bar. Then for the city, you can pass in the city name. So let's say London. Then you can pass in our API key. So let's pass in our API key. We can take this, pass the API key. Pass the API key here. Essentially, what I've been doing, taking this, let me try to expand my screen. So what I'm doing is that I'm taking, so this is the URL that I've, this is the URL, and then the URL has placeholders. So for all these placeholders, you have to pass the name. I've passed the name, let's say London. Then the API key, I'll be passing in the API key. I'll pass in the API key. Okay. Then once I have this, then you can look up for that information. So when you look up for that information, this is what you actually get, the information you're getting. So you can see that I'm getting the information about London. So this is the city London, and I'm getting the weather information for the city London. So you can see we have the temperature information. I think this one is in Kelvin, if I'm not wrong. We are getting information, so temperature. We're also getting information about the speed, the wind speed. We're also getting information about the humidity. So let's look for this is the time zone, ID, name for the city is London. I think I've shown you that. So the description, okay, this is the description. Then not seeing, look at the inspect. When you inspect this, we can get this information. It's a place where we get all this information about getting, anyway, so this is where we are actually getting that information. So the whatever we are passing here is that we're using the query selector, then we have the class name for that, then the inner HTML will inner HTML, then we're using the function inner HTML, then we're just finding the path to the said information. Okay, so data.name, this will give the name of the city, data.main temperature, this is where we're actually going to get temperature value. Humidity, again, we're just doing the same. For the humidity, we can add the percentage sign, then this is the wind speed. Okay, then we need to update the weather icon based on the current conditions. So once we obtain this information, we need to update this. So set weather icon based on current conditions. Okay, so we're going to create another function. So if data.weather .main, if this is clouds, then you can specify the weather icon. So weather icon, then we specify images. So the where we are showing the images, so images clouds and G. Okay, then else if, then data dot weather for index 0 main, then if this one is clear, what you're going to do, going to again weather icon, don't want to, you can just add that. Okay, so if it's clear, you're going to use this image. If it's rain, you're going to use this rain. If it's drizzling, you're going to use the snow. If it's mist, you're going to use the mist. Okay, then from here we can show the weather data and hide any error message. So we need to show weather data and hide this valid city name, or if we have an issue with that. So that just add Q query selector, this weather file display. I'm repeating this. Repeating this twice. Vector weather, then you can do the dot style. Okay. Okay. Okay, so after this, then we can now include the event listener. For search button So when you click the search button, you need to use the event listener. So search button, add event listener. The event listener that we are longing for, that's the click. So when someone clicks, what happens? Then you can use an arrow function. Use an arrow function. Okay, so get weather data, then box put value, the one that you're going to display. Okay. Search box. Search box. Then you can load default weather. So this one you can just say get the data. Then you can pass in a city, Nairobi, whatever city you are. So you can just pass that. Okay, I think there's a okay. Okay, now it's gone. You're not no longer showing that invalid city. So let's try. London. Search box. Now you can see London. Okay, so let's try another city, Moscow. See Moscow, 0 degrees. City Moscow. These are the wind 2.75 kilometers per hour. Then this is the humidity. Let's try another city, Washington. It's 7 degrees, Washington DC. Then this is the humidity and the wind. Okay, so I think that's it. We have been able to now, Washington DC. So I think we have been now at the moment we have been able to build. We started with the index, so the HTML file where we create our the bare bones structure of this application. Okay, so using the HTML, then from there we went to the styling. So we style this using CSS. It's just purely CSS. After styling, we now need to improve on the functionality of the application itself. So with that one, functionality meaning that the information that is being displayed should be the one that the user actually requested. That means once we click a button, we need to toggle some information here and there. We need to display that city, the information, and because different cities do have different weather information, again, that has to be displayed. So you're making the application responsive according to the user needs or demands. So we are actually able to do that using the JavaScript. Okay. So with this one, I think we are able to do that. Also, if you have a city, an invalid city, then when you search that, you can see we have the invalid city name. Okay. So this one is an invalid city name, and we are not displaying. You can see now this is where this one comes into play. So display is block. Then we are not going to display any weather information. So if the city is not a valid city, then this one it becomes we are hiding all other information because it becomes unnecessary, and then we are not displaying any weather information. Then we are just displaying the message invalid city name. Okay. Then by default, you have this can be a default city. I can actually change this. Let's say let me use Brisbane. Yeah, you can see now it changes to Brisbane. I think this is a city in Australia. Okay, let's look for Beirut. So you can see it changes to Beirut as our default web application. So whether you're in Beirut, Moscow, Brisbane, Washington DC, doesn't matter. So you can actually insert your default. So whenever default location you are, so you can use this. You can also integrate the georeferencing so that this one by this, that means by georeferencing at whatever location you are, you can actually just type that. It can use the Google API for geolocation to actually get the city, and then that will be the one that will be displayed here. What about Cape Town? Cape Town is about 20 degrees Celsius. Okay. So I think that's it. That's it from my side today. I think we had the 2 days. I think we had I'll say a wonderful introduction to web development. I think we had a building. This is the first application that I'm actually building using on the web development side of things. Okay, so I think it's a nice introduction. At least I've now, based on my learning, at the moment I can now get to understand how the web side of things actually work, how you can build these web applications and all that. So I think it's a nice introduction to web development. So we are going to be continuing with this, looking for simple projects so that we're able to build these projects and ensure that we're able to master this side of things. We're also able to master this. As I said earlier, my intention is actually to try be, I'll say, quite exceptionally when it comes to React, Next.js. I think those are, I just want to concentrate more on that. But before I actually get to that, then I need to actually understand what happens. I first have to work with the basics. What is HTML? How to understand the syntax behind HTML? Okay, how to design the components using, how to understand the components in HTML, how to position them. Then you need to understand some styling bits using CSS. I think in future with Next.js, I think Tailwind CSS will come into play. But before we actually get there, we can actually first think of the OGs, the CSS. Okay, understand CSS. How we can write functions with CSS. What is border box, flex box, okay, flex, grid, and all that. So once you grasp that idea, then I think you'll be worthy. Just to reference Thor. Okay, so I think this will be our first project. So I'll just share this with you, this code, so that you can practice on your written. So the next one, I think I'll look for another project. Then tomorrow we're going to start yet another project. So I'll look for a better project. Then we're going to do the same. Start with the HTML, style it with CSS, include the JavaScript. So I think if you can do about 10 of this, then you can now jump to start with React, build a component with React slowly by slowly. Then from there, we can now include the Next.js going forward. Okay. So I think that's it. That's it from my side. If you're new to this, click the subscribe to the channel, share with your colleagues. Let's meet tomorrow as we start another project on this. Until next time, see you.